Rinpoche cha ju che wa da me de ne be jen dan che wa da dun ba zhu je bu so zo je je da shi den dan de 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 le oi jo zo je be je jo je me lo zhao re la ne je nin de jiang ban de san je jen do me de ge wa je zhu we nan da jia jia ba zhou ye da ma gu zhou ran na ma le la ma ni ya da ya me san je zhe dan zo je zhang相交八多当年家子去，大给去居人一边从南京中老边界三年中八九三节学大作业中南南讲究八多当年家子去，大给去居人一边从南京中老边界三年中八九。三界觉大作业中南南讲究八多当年讲作业大给是君界别从南界抓拉边界三界着法拉修강계 도대니라도나 다와던 제 밤배제라 담배 주는 동제베 과담 될라 차데로 강계도다냐서나 다와던 제 밤배제라 담배 주는 동 베베 과담 될라 차데로.
Okay, children have class in the next room. 보고 주진데 you know.
그렇지. 아야 다 뒤쳐버려. 어. 아 다시 마켓심지 탐지게 돈도. 톱잘라나 매바 양다바 도비 산지지 콤바람 보지 진해자 폼으로 차. 뒤에 쳐도 안에 다리송라 탐지지 내뛰어봐. 찬주람 예름 바산년에 꿀롱 끈지 제름 반남. 락버세 답데 삼브리 휴스.
Let us take a moment and cultivate the altruistic motivation we call bodhicitta motivation, seeking complete enlightenment for the benefit of all other sentient beings. And with that kind of motivation, we should participate in this Lamrim teaching on the stages of path enlightenment that brings together all the essential points of practice.
오야다 센터 담배 주지 참 그래서 대인 방안서 람링 아니 활동 제목에 아니 그게 가장 문제 마 유연했다 디스버도 사진라고 제비나 디성도 나부터 직바인기래 손바 가자 가자라 돈덤기 차버려 저런 메저를 내셔야 돼 어떻게 마시고요 다 각자 써야 돼 나란도 해터를 다 단지 건디야 동탐벌 줘봐야 한다고 랑기ten이 줘봐야 라지 줘봐 랑은 줘봐야 đảm bảo cho bác sĩ ăn rồi chúng tôi đi các chất hiệu rồi, ta chỉ để tao đi cầm đi khai sinh rồi thế nào, anh không đảm bảo cho bác sĩ ăn đi, sáng thì đi anh các gia là cho rồi rồi, chúng nó mà xe đi vào là anh bây giờ mấy chúng tham gia rồi trả cái đó trả cái mà để xe chỉ cái thọ bắt chili cái rồi bảo 어디 인사래.
So we are back to volume number 3 in English translation of Lamrim Chemo, the great treatise on the stage of the path enlightened man by Manjushri Lama Tsongkhapa. And so we are dealing with Lamrim sections on what we call cultivating special insight or vipassana, in Tibetan called Lakdong, and which is presented under a number of major outlines. And the outline that we have been dealing with, where we stopped last time, is to do with in our own system of thoughts or school of thoughts, how do we identify what is being refuted or negated. We call object of negation or object of refutation, in Tibetan called garcha. And so there are a number of points dealing with that, and we are on page 217, and the point number 3, which says whether to add the qualification ultimate to the objects of negation. Just to recapitulate some of the things we talked about, of course, some time ago, is when we deal with object of negation, the technical terms that we confront or we use are such as intrinsic existence, existing by way of its own nature, or truly existent. The Tibetan terms are Rangwena Doba, Rangshinji Doba, and Tembar Doba. So these are the terms we use: intrinsic existence, true existence, and existing by way of its own nature. And these terms are used to identify in our own school of thought what is that we are trying to negate or refute. And so one of the points that has been discussed in the Madhyamika school of thought is when do you use qualifying terms such as Ten Thambar Druba, which has been translated in English as ultimate, something existing ultimately. Okay? So if you go through the Madhyamika literature, is there some kind of a consistency in the use of the qualifying term ultimate as we talk about objects of negation? So that's what this is where we're going to pick it up and continue from there.
각자라 던던게 제발 좋아데 오므란 주고 권에 룩수 마와니 시미릭데스 딱 각자라 던던게 제발 잡아데 양 가지기스나 가정다보리 뒤뒤직라 데 오므란 주고 권에 룩수 로리 마도 찍게 오메흉 탐제네 가자를 제발지 자요 말이스 제발지 오므란 주고 권에 룩수 아니 제발디 태기를 배웠더니 태기 말이 있어 그랬다. 미릭대 태기 말이 있어. 엄마는 요요바 딜 태기 말이 있어 그래. 밑에 비주된 가리에서 나선 거였다. 그 밑에 비주된 가리에서 밑에 비주된데 아니 비게 종대 육바란데 있나 다간데 있나 간제 엄마 주변에 백값줄라 윤파 강샤 윤파마 자고 풍부를 송배 대외 윤 여러 가다 좀 bomba세 한다고 시진 bomba 세한다고 tindi기 토르바 당샤스 지다 아니 피게지 어디다 가자 자두들라 가르쳐 그래서 중마 자윤데 발라 자베 요래 마자베 요래 자발라야 아니 그래서 가다 각자티 무엇을 자러 왔다 야 통지 자러 왔는데 저기 니요 되기 요래스
So some critics assert that it is only Savatandika Madhyamikans, who use the qualifying term ultimate, with regard to the object of negation or what is being refuted or negated. So it is as if that is the exclusive domain of the Savatandika Madhyamikans, not other Madhyamikans or the middle way schools. But that's not correct assertion. It's not only Savatandika Madhyamikans who use the qualifying term ultimate. Other Madhyamikans also do that. And so there isn't really, in a sense, consistency in the use of qualifying term ultimate, Thön Thambar, to talk about object of negation in the Madhyamika literatures. Sometimes it's explicitly used. Right, there's a qualifying term ultimate, right, to identify what is being negated or refuted. Other times it is implicitly understood. It is not there in explicit expression, but it's nonetheless understood. That's what it's meant. Yeah. So that's what we need to, take into account. And so on page 217, we have passage quoted from Chandrakirti's middle way commentary on the perfection of wisdom. As you may recall, that our historical teacher Shakyamuni Buddha, in his second turning of the wheel of Dharma, or second sermons, that he talked about wisdom gone beyond sutras, or the Pranjana Paramita Sutras on vulture's peak, Girthkuti in India. Yeah, so there are many different versions of that sutra. Some are as many as, I think, 100,000 stanzas. Other are, a couple of thousands. And so we have a passage quoted from one of the Perfection of Wisdom Sutras there.
어다지 대세 가동이 추기야 다 잡았다 맞잡았어. 제비인다 아니 진짜 맞잡았다 다 잡으러 왔다. 아 잡아 있는 양고서 맞잡아 근데 요래 제비이나 대 요래 있다나. 아 시랍 년부 난생기 아니 비게 속매 담에 뒤매세 하던 게 각자를 통통 잡으러 못 자요 말이스. 이나 자요 아리스 직직. 아, 전에 다시 그 추주값이 있나야. 아, 관계 땡진 잡아줘. 가봐매봐, 쳔매봐, 자와. 근데서 맞더니 봐. 지금 여러 번 혈까 니나 쓰면 보통 값이 있네야. 뭐 자매 싫어. 땅을 잡을 가리에서는 다다디 그래서 가자라 통통 그 제바란 주부 코네로 제바 밑에서 밑에비 주된데 주변데 왜 값죠. 아니 용 파마데 장자스. 가자를 통증을 제발 잡아대 장샤스. 근데 진 장도잖아. 단지네 마시오르다. 주변대비 중대대비 중대도 대비 용 넘버 대비 용 장발래. 아태던데 말람저르스리다. 태던데 말람저르스야데 강사지게 민데 람저람저스야. 태던데 말람저르 람저르스리. 양지 이제 양지 토바 메지 ngomra tokba me tham se ta dewa ji ramjog sheri phul pha labina ani phige che kande ri ta ti ngai che khoanalia thone ani ya che phige che ti nyande ra che toba ta ani te tobji ge lam ini phige che ngomra tokba 정도 아니 비게지 요 말에 배서 약티와시리 따디 요 말에 배서 대지 가잘 통덤기 잡으라 가자 통 탐버지 임바이나 통 탐버지나 아니 대 가자 되기 대 톱에 요 말이 톱지 정음으로 똑바에 셰도 미령하지 차운데 대 요아리 송보임버래 대 요아리 이네 ngom으로 똑 메서는 저와지 련려야 아니 비게 ramjorki me basi ade thongko ramjorki me basi yanjo ramjorki me ba tadan damba sherifu tobanya yu ngombar tokbanya yu metis o tawal soba tinege tobaya yari tobji ge lamya yari yo yu meji yang gahin garele me seya de ngombar tokbata toba 돈도 일이야 타봐야 터디 근데 매세 아직 가르쳐놨으기 사람한테 똑바냐 여머지 니지 주지는 많이 넣어 됐어야지 딘데기 톱자당 톱제다 토바보다 아니 딘데기 남자 시야디 돈탐바 퍼베냠자 이시중 니나 너베 몰라 아 딘데기 차지들이 왜잖아 그 말이 스타디 이제 가르쳐올 때 와다티 말이 있어야 돼 돈 탐바 파베냐자 이시지 원나 거리어잖아. 제 입다 카도로서부터 요 말이 춘이라 뜻직도 냠라 자신비인데 뒤ngo라 토바포세야 가서 톱지 되게 남자한테 요 말이 있어요. 디레스네 니기 최진에 많이 넣었네. 대지 송샤스.
So as we just said that if we look through Madhyamika literature, middle way literature, sometimes we do find that there are passages in which qualifying term ultimate is explicitly stated with regard to object of negation. At other times, it is implicitly understood. Okay? And so that's the case. And with regard to what some critics have said, it is as if using the qualifying term ultimate with regard to the object of negation is the exclusive domain of Savatanic Madhyamikans. That's not correct. Okay, other Madhyamikans also use it sense. And so here is a passage quoted from what we call the middle version of Pranjana Paramita Sutra, which in this translation is called 25,000 line Pranjana Paramita Sutra. And let me first read the relevant passage and then translate the explanation given on this. This is like as if a dialogue is happening between Shariputra and Subhuti. Yeah, and Shariputra is asking questions to Subhuti, and Subhuti is answering his questions. And he says, Shariputra says, Venerable Subhuti, is it that there is no attainment and no clear knowledge? Subhuti answered, Venerable Shariputra, there is attainment and there is also clear knowledge, but not in a dualistic sense. Yeah, that's where Khensur Rinpoche read and stopped. So now the explanation given on this is, Shariputra is asking Subhuti, so in general, should we say there is no such thing as, the attainment of, for example, nirvana, state beyond samsara or cyclic existence? There is no clear, what we call knowledge referring to the path that helps us to attain the state of nirvana. So what do you think? Right, this is what the Shariputra is asking Subhuti. And the Subhuti says, no, in a conventional sense, there is attainment of realizations, including nirvana or state beyond suffering. And so there are spiritual paths, right, leading to nirvana and enlightenment, but it's not in a dualistic sense. Okay, and so that is the conditional, right, attached. So what does it mean, not in a dualistic sense? Is this that these attainment and clear knowledge of the paths ultimately do not exist. And how do we know? Because they don't exist in a dualistic sense. Yeah. So the explanation given on this is, when a transcendental being, we call Aryas, they enter into this deep meditative state we call meditative equipoise on the ultimate nature of things. Their mind is non-dualistically, right, engaged with the ultimate reality. And for that wisdom, in the meditative state, there is no sound, no color, no form, nothing else. Okay? So nothing exists ultimately for that transcendental wisdom in the deep meditation state on reality. Why? Because that wisdom is a non-dualistic wisdom. It doesn't do the differentiations of this and that and color and big and small, whatever it is. So from the point of view of that wisdom experience, ultimately, there are no attainment and no path. But in general, conventionally speaking, yes, there is attainment of nirvana, and there is path leading to that state of nirvana. And as I mentioned earlier, that sometimes qualifying term ultimate is understood is not explicitly stated. In some of the Perfection of Wisdom Sutras, as you know, the statements we read is, for example, no form, no smell, no sound, right? So what we really hear is no this, no that, right? But the qualifying term is implicitly understood here, meaning that there is no ultimately existent form, ultimately existent sound, and so forth. So the qualifying term is implicitly understood but not explicitly stated. Okay. No.
다티 샴디가 양적 송도다. 다티 책도 타고 키워도 다 가리나 우저지리 휴게다. 양 디샴데 그랬으나 태든데 봐 셰리프 토바다 엄버 똑바는 지대기 탄지 온도 일라 세스도와.
No.
티카르 송교 알잖아. 다티 단지 콘도 휴반나 신지 제 람토바보다 토바다 근데 람지 림베 남지 안 잡을게. 아니 그게 제 마다 맞제 반지네 탄이고 옹도 그게 저기 샤샤디 태버지 요아리 마도 지라 딱동 때니 그게 야지 가르쳐다 니베 온도 전에 뒤에게 샤샤디 요 말이 탄이도 온도 일라시야 직제가 발라 어떻게 송로는 나한테 막 간사 망고 쉬고 송게 가리나.
So we're in the middle of page 217. That passage quoted from 25,000 line Prajnaparamita Sutra, and where it reads, Venerable Shariputra, attainment and clear knowledge exist as worldly conventions, period. Yeah? And so the explanation given here is when we talk about spiritual attainments, realizations, including nirvana attaining, or that which helps us to attain that state, we call path. So we are talking in a very conventional sense. How do the worldly people talk about these things? There is attainment and there is a path that helps us to attain that. Yeah? So when we follow the worldly conventions, then we can talk about attainment and clear knowledge, but not in an ultimate sense, meaning that these things are not established by way of what we call ultimate analysis. The Tibetan term is called, Tenzin. These are not asserted, by way of looking for to find something under ultimate analysis. Because as you know, nothing is findable under ultimate analysis. Okay? So from that point of view, nobody can talk about attainment and clear knowledge. But conventionally speaking, in use of the worldly conventions, then we can talk about attainment and a clear path. So it's very important for us to make that distinction. From what perspective are we presenting and talking about these things? Not from the ultimate point of view, because through ultimate analysis, nothing is findable. Okay? So therefore, you can't talk about attainment and clear path. Nothing is findable under that analysis. If something is found, my first footnote, I'm trying to forget, right? And you got it wrong. We press the red button, Yeah. He didn't say that. I'm waking you up. Yeah.
세상에 다티 디승거래. 어쨌든 탄이 온게 인지스. 인라시아 총도와 탄이 온게 인라시. 다티네 양 디승도와 간사망고 쉬우지 교제 성도와 가르치게 할 때는 잡히는 도가. 타바야 돈도 녀 타바 돈녀게 로리야 준주야 짬 땡겐게. 준속생이지 하리. 준도 효과돼야지. 준속해야지. 대부 시스기에다 준속제 정원제 신마오 다점센다 양디 거들라 대부 시스야지 해요하다. 디나데도 집에 아니 피기지 준속제야지 하리. 양대베 tel야 렌치리던 레드 녀몽 온게 짜와래. 드네 멤버들부터 총세야지 지혜요하리. 다치 명세야지. 아니 양저게 감정지 비에지 녀모베 싹바 탐제 세바 다좀 받으니 직제. 다디 강사 시티 리사송 다좀 받지. 드네 양저게 시바 탐매베세. 로본 현지 담나라 마템바라 나랑 산제시니 직제. 강사 나치. 대강대야 대리도야 제 현동 탈침바라 준비게 안에 비게 현동 탈침바라 란동적 예바 도르베게 장죽 셈바 다 장죽 셈바스니들이잖아 현동 탈치 란동의 효를 탈치 용이어리 얘네야 란동데 예바라도 현동 또 쿨랑베 장죽 셈바 어디 간제 강사 생활 좋게 지어서 있어 중독기 가르쳐 버렸잖아 즉 깨졌지 용 거야지 지대 타니들이 마도 찍라 통탐번에 또 매진 와다들이 그 가자를 잡을게 자상을 뒤 자한도와 어떻게 탕망을 어딘지 된게 타니지 타니도 인지 통탐바 토번에 매진 매번 인상티 매진 엄버 똑바야 매도 통탐바 엄버 똑바야 민두 센터 가자를 통담 잡을 자야 찍 인제 송이도 왔
So we are still in the middle of page 217, that passage quoted from 25,000 lines, Pranjanaparamita Sutra. And so the passage continues. Also stream enterers, once returners, never returners, arahats, Pratyeka Buddhas, and Bodhisattvas exist as worldly conventions. Ultimately, however, there is no attainment and there is no clear knowledge, unquote. So there are mention of at least 6 types of beings. These are on different stages of realizations. Where you read the terms such as stream enterers, once returners, never returners, and arahats. So these are on different stages of the path. I mean, those who are seriously engaged in the paths trying to find nirvana. Or the freedom from samsara. So depending upon their level of realizations, they are marked as stream enterers, once returner, never returner, and then arahat is the one who is really free from all the delusions or afflictive emotions, right? And we also have Pratyeka Buddhas or solitary realizers. Pratyeka Buddhas are identified as individuals who, especially towards the end of their stage of path, they really don't rely upon anybody else, teachers or anybody else. They can attain their realization on their own. So they are sort of a solitary realizers, kind of independent. I can do it myself. Stand on my feet kind of people. And then the Bodhisattvas are individuals who are completely dedicated for the well-being of other sentient beings. They don't let themselves ruled by self-centeredness, selfishness. So these are not egomaniacs. They are completely altruistic. Individuals. So when we talk about these different 6 types of realized beings on different stages, we are only doing that from worldly point of view, conventional point of view. And in this passage, the qualifying term ultimate is explicitly stated here, isn't it? It says, ultimately, however, there is no attainment and there is no clear knowledge. So from ultimate point of view, we cannot talk about these different types of beings. We cannot talk about attainment of nirvana. We can talk about clear realization or path to enlightenment. Only from conventional point of view that we can talk about these things. So it's very important for us to, to differentiate between the 2 types of truths, right? So from conventional point of view, we can talk about these things, but from ultimate point of view, we cannot talk about these things. Why? Because from ultimate point of view, nothing really exists. Nothing is findable until ultimate analysis.
What is it? Oh, that's about to start, yeah. Ngobrto mit. Oh, she sung batar sendo ta. Tate ti long de matani, or tal long de matani, she sung batar ke lang ko bran jungdele sung bateta. Jungdele sung bate ranju ben do yin chi mams. Ta tanda jungde ki yum phame long kajala thondam ki chebra jabe yum phame todor buchena yum phame long tike ti anpige ti do tike de ranju ben do yin chi bes. ranju kone ke ani pige lukma wa yin ite de riki mari te ina yum phambe ke tik tik chagang di ani pige che ya me na kar ta kiran ti tike de ya ani ranju bi hyung yin do yin sin la ki be se ya tik che ban de do den do a te kin do ni dong jin do nam ne ta ti tenju we lo la tang dong ni dong chen ji do ni dong jin do kam ne ani kun de thong tam be che bar cha wa mang bu shi da ya de 제비 인상 동담배 개발 잡아대 란주베 군내로 제비디 태기면도 동바산지 좀 된데기 윤 판매값이야 아니 비게지 단다책 자야 되게 말 자네 망고 송요아리 똥좀 된 데기야 아니 비게 ranju 코네 로긴시 그때 로그레스니 헤지 말이 단대 특디게디 ranju 코네 로트 말이 있으니 어디다 송요도 도잖아.
And so it's stated in the text here that that passage from middle version of the Pranjanaparamita Sutra is quoted in the commentary on the middle way by great Indian master Chandrakirti. Yeah? And that passage explicitly, states the term ultimate. Ultimately, there is no attainment and there is no clear knowledge. Yeah? So if you claim that the use of qualifying term ultimate with regard to the object of negation is the exclusive domain of Savatandika Madhyamikans, then are you really saying that these Panchaparamita Sutras are really the domains of, exclusive domains of the Savatandika Madhyamikas? It doesn't make sense, because the sutras are the words of the Buddha. So they really don't belong to Savatandika Madhyamikans really, domain. And moreover, as we can see, that in the Prasangika Madhyamika school, where they make a clear distinction between definitive sutras and interpretable sutras, sutras which require interpretations, in the definitive sutras, we call Nyedun Yiddo, oftentimes Prasangikas also use the qualifying term ultimate, right, to talk about things. So that tells us that it is not the Savatandika Madhyamikans, who do that.
대식 살아야 건자 도도르부터 란주 코넬로기 해야지 되게 말해 해야지 단다디 윤밤에 롱디게 말탄 식 살아세 도바산제 좀 된데게 아니 비게 시그리 해야 직제 다 대도만도 마세베 아니 비게 지 란주 코넬로기 해야지 되게 말이 팀메데 바데 아니 비게 지 뺑봉 파벌루기 형네 마 아니 비게 지 통담기 가자라 통담기 티아브라 자와데 망보시 송요리 세네 송요사리.
So some critics assert that the use of the qualifying term ultimate with regard to the object of negation is the exclusive domain of the Savatandika Madhyamikans, but that is an incorrect assertion or assumption. Why? Because Shakyamuni Buddha himself, in his Pranjanaparamita Sutras, the one we just quoted here, has used explicitly the term ultimate with regard to, the object of negation. So that's one way to say that, other Madhyamikans could also use it, or even the Buddha did that himself, right? And also, great Indian master Arya Nagarjuna, in his works, also, sometimes there is the use of the qualifying term ultimate, with regard to the object of negation. So by citing these authentic sources, Buddha's own words, Nagarjuna's works, we are trying to challenge those critics that what you are saying is incorrect. Okay, it's not just the Savatandika Madhyamikans who do that. Other Madhyamikans and Buddha himself, did the same thing.
What I can do is that Bengo Papalogi song by Yimbayina, Kabasongdo, Kapkarikab Songdo, Siene. 문딘 낭 받잖아 다 대송도가 똥이 던주버티니 되가 그리고 뭐벌로도 기빠나 엄마를 또 조기 열어 봐 뒤에 낭땡이 집에 된 똥이 던주비 값도 송차 송도간데 똥이 던주 빨리 땅 똥이 던주버 뒤에 값을 가르쳐 거 알았잖아 내가 보면 전적 유미 담제네 딱직 대랑아디야 직직이 가르치기 알았잖아 딱 나른 적 대나라 아 저기 신앙기 뭐 컨디션이야 당고 잡았어야 되네 내봤어야 되네 집었어야 돼 가리온 게래 근데 진짜 용야 돼 NPH 자지 태야 돼 근데 있잖아 어디 돈 담을 집에 온게 말이 대 콘디션 나히디 지된 게 탄이게 온게 대자버리 다대 탈롱라고 야고 중요할 진짜 다 내야야 손도 되지 양지 주요 번도 저기 근데 남자한테 가르잖아 돈 담배 온게 멤버 아니 비게 이제 된게 탄이고 온게 샤부지리야 숨겨서래.
So if Nagarjuna also did the same thing, then where is it? Show it to me, right? That's what the critics might say. And then he says, towards the end of page 217, he says, okay, Nagarjuna has written many important works. Oftentimes we talk about the 6 collected works of Arya Nagarjuna, Riksok Truk in Tibetan. And in that collection, we also find 70 stanzas on emptiness, Tongyi Tunju. Okay? So a passage from that 70 stanzas is quoted, which reads, through the force of worldly convention and not through the force of reality, the Buddha spoke of duration, production, and cessation, of existence and non-existence, of what is low, moderate, and supreme, unquote. And so when we talk about, say, if any what called produced phenomena come into existence, right? At the beginning there's a production, right? Something is produced, something is composed, whatever, right? We call keva. So something takes birth, if you will. Okay? So when something is born or something is produced, then it also has a duration. It might exist for whatever the duration is. So at that time, it may grow bigger, right? There's a growth and development. And then eventually what happens, it has to disintegrate, right? It will become nothing, get destroyed. That's called cessation. So maybe look at the processes of functional things, production, existence or duration, and cessation. All these things are possible only in terms of conventional reality, the worldly conventions, right? We can conventionally talk, well, something is produced, something is existing, growing now, while something really is gone, isn't it? Ceases to exist. So such processes could only be talked from conventional point of view, not from the ultimate point of view, not from reality, meaning not from the ultimate point of view.
Teach 동도가
No.
진내 양 가르에서는 뒤에 teach 동거다 양 멤버 냠밤 개버전 동도가
No.
딱 양지 가상으로 차샤비는 간도 나 벤주 지단 좋아 미네 당도 차샤비는 간도 제 경그세 연대 근데 다자 동바 샤자 투바를 저버적을 뚜비는 간도 가래
No.
멤버리 되어리스
No.
야한테 야지 야 그런데 chanju semba 나다 사주 바반다 사tun도 tun도 바니 아니 냠버리 되어리스 빵도 그 연대 가리네 비게 냠버리 되어리스 야 tun도를 뛰어대 비게 제 로아르 마와지 마지 tun도를 소부tun도다 멤버리 되어리스 간데 초세야디 근데 깜네 땜비 초세야디 투발이야 투바산지 좀 된데를 거네 저거를 간이 남지 초 산제를 잡죠. 저기와 어쨌든 간이 초는 볼때 잘신. 근데 그 자제의 간들이 있어요다. 가시에 멤버도가 가시에 냠버도가 가시에는 야 초든데 그 영야기 디비디 비게 가리용 게리 돈 담바를 유배 온 게다. 이제 탄이기 다가디 저기 비에 자제 태야 버지. 예전에 diwal에서는 어다 디센도한데 쳐버렸지. 산제제된 왕기 산제제된 왕기 송지 제대하게 탄이지 온게 산제지 송지 양탁부 온게 맨 어디 가잘 개버 자당 오는데다 네티자 인사르디 송지 양탁배 맨지 근데 양 오가던 건물로도 돈이 뒤집어 갖고 근데 즉 송보인 버렸어.
So where it reads in that passage quoted from Nagarjuna's 70 stanzas, of what is low, moderate, or supreme, that refers to, for example, we find differentiations among people and sentient beings in terms of our level of existence or like a status, if you will. For example, the supreme here could refer to enlightened beings, Buddhas. So they are really on the highest level, right, supreme. So compared to them, where we are, we're really low, right? We're down below, isn't it? So then we think about the bodhisattvas, because bodhisattvas are all different levels. And those who are on the same level, well, they are buddies, isn't it? They're peers. They're peer bodhisattvas on the same level. Okay? So do we human beings on the same level, we are peers. Okay? And then compared to other animals, maybe we are at a little higher level because some of them are at a lower level existence. So all these kind of differentiations among sentient beings, among people that we find, how do we posit them? Do we posit these differentiations from ultimate point of view or conventional point of view? The answer is from conventional point of view, not from ultimate point of view. No.
Có tí chế độ đông y đối với tâm tu mà sẽ về anh ấy人间成为告诉送下送多的，
No.
人间听完来，大概有这吧，天天谈别同的没，
No.
这些啊，可是这个样子呢，俺比个这当大概到话的大一点，这热点热的，因为大概到谁啊个因比个这，我让就这点个谈的讲个。马这边那样子，我让这个打下去了吧？
No.
像就怕这打你夹出去谁的？打是同样的，打芒果同样的，这个比这个打就有点意思。打的龙就在人间个样子，同把马这边打的龙就在人间个呢，打给比个这，他的肯定呢，基本差远的门，打的打给打完之后就有点意思。打的肯定的打给打下去。데네 치만도에 다 치만은 데리용에 다 다다에 다 해야 돼. 다 망고야. 이 제비인다 돈도 가디지 딘데 다게 다 딘데 요를 해야 돼. 딘데 요를 해야 돼. 가리야 되는 담배 돈도 가르선도 데네 담배 돈도 매돈 담버티베 온디 제네 대요 말이 다 공디 휴번 나기디 이제 마다 맞제 봐. 제된 담배 온게 딘데 요리스
No.
No.
And at the bottom of 217, we also have statements quoted from Arya Nagarjuna's Precious Garland or Ratna Avali, another important work, and which reads, "It is said that both the self and that which belongs to the self exist. They do not exist in an ultimate sense," unquote. Yeah. So when we talk about I and mine, okay, conventionally speaking, yes, because I exist, and that's why sometimes we pray, from this moment until I reach enlightened state, I go for refuge in Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. Well, there is an I that exists. Otherwise, what is that I we're talking about, right? From this moment until I become Buddha, but who's that I? Or that... we talk about mine, my this, my that, my resources, my friends, my whatever, right? My students are coming into me, whatever. So those exist, but not in an ultimate sense. Ultimately, there is no such thing as I and mine, if you will. Yeah? Conventionally, there is. That's why we can talk about, how I came into existence from the past lives. There is something that came from the previous life into this life, and there is something that goes from this life into next life, isn't it? So something continuously exists from the past to the present, present to the future. So there is self or I that exists, but it exists conventionally, not ultimately.
오야 지당 선도와 다티게 참대 린젠테 트인사리 단다티 린젠테 티그와 되게 참대 지당 다게 사봉 말해서 관계 사봉 좀바티 깨와 담바 갈라히익신 다티 직송도가 직니도가 디 가르치기 할때나 다 관계 들어봐지 나도게 제 사봉세야디 표준의 유랑을 줘버지 나한테기 요아리디 디요 말이 피게지 코란 사봉 코란 준비랑 진지리 담바도 준비니기 나네 관계 사봉 준비 티기 아니 피게지 레부제 연두 발에 사봉티 뉴글란 레불로 소바제 연두디 템베티와지 요르베잖아 디요 말이 숨이다 야와 담바 갈라시 지당시 어때 직니직양
And the two lines at the bottom of page 217, I believe these are continuation from Arya Nagarjuna's Precious Garland, and which reads, "How can something be true when the seed that produces it is false?" Okay? And so what that really tells us is when we look at how a seed produces sprout and so on, for our ordinary perceptions, the seed appears to exist in and of itself out there, right, from its own side objectively. But in reality, it doesn't exist that way. So we got this intrinsic appearance of a seed, but in reality, it doesn't exist in that mode. So what that tells us is that, I think for lack of a better word in English, the seed has what we call Zumba, has some kind of a illusory false existence. So if a seed has that kind of a nature, how could it produce a truly existent result? It's impossible. Okay.
You might can't think yours. You might can't Tata language check it, do Tendele, Tata language shall do with the come and take it, Tango Java, never dig with their demo shampoo, you start and make make levy, demo what he started to this you start of us. Jet the inter and piggy Tendeki, you may give take a Castigo so shabby, Jig Dentala, and piggy. Jawat and Jipati Naru Tachi, Seva, Kache, Seva, Tobala, Soba, Kache, Nawan, Zeva Tampang, come and take this Nana Yenayang, the number read Tambeton to Jawata, Jipani, you my instant. Pigati, Munia Taneki, make David, Demo, we won't get Tani, Kinjigla to be Demo Champu Chongre, any Pigati, Munia Pigati. 통다티 요아리 베스는 요 말이 담배톤도 껴왔다 통다 각자 통다 배톤도 껴왔다 아니 피게 직반이네 요 많이 근데 진직디 가서다 문에 받이 근데디 요 말이 디 간지 공디 껴바나기 준비랑게 지리디 요아리스 야진다리.
So when on top of page 218 there is a stanza from Nagarjuna's work which reads, similarly, production and disintegration appear in this illusory world, but ultimately there is no production and no disintegration, unquote. So explanation given on this is, say if we are at a magic show, okay, illusory show, and magicians are very skilled by the magic spell. So when we are spellbound, and then from like tricks and pebbles, they can create all this like horses and elephants and whatever, right? It is amazing show. Like, well, oh my gosh, we get sucked into that. How did he or she do that? And they all appear very real to us, isn't it? The horses are galloping, and the elephants are doing whatever the elephant tricks they are doing, and we can see that. Like, wow, my gosh, what is? But in reality, there are no horses and elephants. It's just illusion he or she created, isn't it? But we consider as if they exist in reality, but in reality they don't exist. Ultimately, there is nothing. We just got goofed, but that's what it is, When the show is over, then we realize, So it's in the same way that things appear to us in one way, but they exist in a different way. Things do not exist the way they appear to exist for us. Just like that magic show. Things appear to us as horses and elephants and whatever the thing they create, but in reality, it's all false. There is nothing there. It's just an illusion. Yeah? Ultimately, nothing exists in that magic show. In the same way, ultimately, nothing exists in reality. Conventionally speaking, yes, things do exist. So therefore, conventionally, we can talk about production of things, disintegration of things. Ultimately, we cannot talk about, production and disintegration.
어디 란지부 군에 룩대야디 밑에 다 규대한다 찍리 뭐 루루게 비게 가자라 잡아 망고송 요아리시 대다 마자르베 태양 란기 오다 란신당 아니 가사 랑기 팅이지 두바 maybe 자로안에 신도 망고 세야진들이다. 디가르슨 요알선 고수 마자로 쓰면도 대다 마자로 세야지 그래서 대다 마자비 세야지 곰볼루두기 슝니티 가사 단지 콘 휴브난 신기 고수 책 마자비 이나양 아니 비에지 마자비 세야 아니 가리 알잖아 랑경오다 랑현다 아니 비에지 랑기 팅이지 두바 maybe any PhD Chabra Java Tim Shindune Mangori
So right after that stanza of Nagarjuna, there is a summation or summary provided. And where it reads that, so in texts such as the ones from Nagarjuna that we have witnessed, so at times the qualifying term ultimate is explicitly used with regard to the negation or the object of negation, but at other times the qualifying term is dropped, but nonetheless implicitly it is understood that's what it is. Okay? And so as the passage reads, thus such texts often make statements in which they attach ultimately, truly, and in reality to the negation. Even when they do not add those, they very frequently add a qualification that something does not exist essentially, does not exist intrinsically, or does not exist by way of its own intrinsic character. Okay? So this is a way of saying that at times the qualifying term ultimate is dropped, but we should understand that implicitly that's what it's meant to be. Nothing exists essentially, intrinsically, and by way of its own characteristics. Okay?
What that 가자 동동이 켜버려버란 유부 군에 로긴세야디 되게 말이 또 산지 좀 된데기 윤파매 가서 가자를 동동이 켜버려 망고송샤 곰볼루두기 애니피 동이 든지 방고서 송 되네야 망고송샤 대점도 마세베 애니피게 제 로본 산지 장기장 가자를 동담비 켜버려 망고송샤 세네 송베인사레스
So the main point that we have focused upon today is that even though some critics assert that the use of the qualifying term ultimate with regards to the negation is the exclusive position or the domain of Savatantaka Madhyamikans, but that's incorrect. Why? Because Buddha himself did that too, and we have seen a passage quoted from the middle version of the Pranjana Paramita Sutra, right, where Buddha explicitly used the term ultimate there. Ultimately, there is no attainment, no clear knowledge. Okay? And not only Buddha did that, Arya Nagarjuna, in his 70 stanzas on emptiness, in his precious garland, also did the same thing. Okay? And that also tells us it's not the Savatantaka Madhyamikans, who have, some kind of a copyright over that. Okay? So not only that, other great Indian masters such as Buddha Palita did the same thing. So that next, it says on page 218, Buddha Palita's commentary on the fundamental treatise says, okay.
제비 인상 다 로본 산제 장제 비게 가자를 제버자바 망고 송구 요비나 단대 대 추진소야디 간데 송버잖아 부다 빨리다 부다 빨리게 가리서는 산제 남지 최담바 담반일라 양다 땐 이제 건조 담바다 담배 돈지 담바고 진중에 다 대송구이서래 제대한 되게 가자를 건동기 제버자바는 송구이서라 간데 세상 산제 투바 산제 좀 된데기 뒤자라 아니 비게 최담바티 사실 산제 남지 최담바 뒤자라 마 최담바티 주자도 가릴 때 주자적이 다 남한테 땡주 요리 도미 동로세 tin데서 멤버 주자 가릴 때네 송버리잖아 담반일 때네 송버리서 주자 담반일이 송거야래 담반일에 양다 댄스 제비인다 다 도도잖아 군도 담바시 이제다 돈담 담바시 이니 땀친을 보지니 마 땡겨와레스 다 뒤나게 이제 군도 담바시야 돼 간디적이 세그랬잖아 디감니 군도 담바시야 돼 아니 피게 될 수요레스 나란도 게지 나야 매비기 다치 땡진도 지어봐 템퍼레처 봐 매네야 템퍼레처 봐 나에 모르tâm 템베나 가르치다 군접 템바 디 군접 시야기 템바 시야디 딥지 군접라 딥지 다 나도 그 템퍼레처 바티 템투 템바이트 바얀 딘데 또 딥디 여봐 주 담지 디기 모르tâm 내 엔피게지 가르다 템퍼레처 군접 템지 내 군접 템바티야디 템사티 다 가지 땡긴지 모르tâm 기 템베나 군접 템바 세기와레스 나 통담배 냄비게 담배 던지 담바스인데 가리에서나 달 시바 자다 배망고시 유사리 뒤네야 다 간데 잡으랬으나 아니 담배 돈세야 돼 담바데 가와치게 동어데 가르치기를 제는 라비나 담바디 엔피게 제 동원 담바 파베냠샤 이시스게 달라드네 담바지기리 똥이디 동담 담바데 디 파베냠샤 이시디 뭐 엔피게 제 생리 가서 왔지 생리 밀루한 잡지 인디 와라 통담 댐바 신이 어 딘디 신이 가서 통담 댐바 신이 되게 신중에 센도와 어디부터 지기로는
So we are on page 218 where it reads, also Buddha Palita's commentary on the fundamental treatise says, Nagarjuna's fundamental treatise states, the teachings given by the Buddhas rely wholly on the two truths, worldly conventional truths and ultimate truths, unquote. Now the explanation given on that is that our historical teacher Shakyamuni Buddha has given extensive teachings. Yeah? So we could ask this question, what did Buddha really talk about or teach? What's the subject matter of Buddha's teachings? Let's sum it up. He talked too many things, right? What is it about? Well, what it's really about is the two truths. Buddha only talked about two truths, and the two truths are conventional truth, samvidhi satya in Sanskrit, and ultimate truth, paramartha satya. Okay? So these are the two truths which are the subject matters or the contents of Buddha's teachings. Okay? Then the question arises, and how do we know which is what? What is conventional reality or truth, and what is ultimate reality or truth? Okay? Well, conventional reality, we call Kunzop Temba in Tibetan, is posited from the conventional perception point of view. That which is true for the conventional ordinary perceptions which are influenced by true existence or inter-existence is regarded as conventional reality or conventional truth. We as ordinary beings, right, of course, we have grasping at true existence. Things appear to us as being truly existent. So our perceptions are very much influenced by appearances of true existence, but there are things which exist as truth for our perceptions, and those truths are regarded as conventional truths or samvidhi satya, kunzop temba, something that is true conventionally for those perceptions influenced by true existence or appearances of true existence. Okay. Now, ultimate truth is different category, and of course, Khensur says different schools will have different way of explaining what is ultimate, what is truth, right? All of that, but to try to simplify it here, the ultimate here, pramartha, it refers to, dantamba in Tibetan, refers to Arya's wisdom in the state of meditative equipoise. Okay? Transcendental beings, Aryas, who have entered deep into the meditation, their wisdom, which is single-pointedly focused on, right, something, right? That something is emptiness, right? That is considered as ultimate. That which exists as truth for that wisdom is regarded as ultimate truth. So what exists for that wisdom? Nothing but emptiness, shunyata or sunyata. Okay? So that is regarded as ultimate truth. Why? Because for that wisdom, what exists is nothing but emptiness, and that is the truth of the matter. Okay? It is not a fake or illusion or something, or some kind of apparitions appearing in the meditation. It is the truth as it is. Okay? And it is a non-deceptive truth. It's not going to, deceive you or cheat on you. No, no.
어다디 투노르 신사라바 신종에 서바다
No.
다디네 책대 타고도가 거의나 하고문데 텔렌지제 지데 군도게 담바 관계스 지데 군도 담바데 관계 본바 요도 사마 요도 시 줘봐 진지 아니 가르쳐 그랬다 나도 지대나라 티고여 봤다 군도게 담바스니 티 토네 지지 나라요 콜라민도 나라민도 콜라요 나라요 세 답변은 빈들 차샤비는 되지세도 군도게 담바 관계도 그랬다 본바 유스 나도 그때서 나도 본바 직도 본바 세야스도 어티 유스 그때 다 사마틱 세야데 이지날 가르치기 왔다디
No, that they didn't choose a
예디 사마틱 세야데
뉴마게 된 소리 주셔서.
라
뉴대 소리 주셔. 뉴마게 된 여러분.
음악대
didn't 주셔 간시다.
알레 다디 가리나 사마틱 세야스도티 가리나 약부지 하고 민도 제자 관계 본바 유도 사마틱 유도 쓰다
No, so.
다 유유 망고도 당고 유유 알레 대유 알레 제 본바 유 사마틱 유 뉴막 대나다 가리나 티 세시럽디 가리 무슨 또 맞어 다 그래서기나 유도 쓰기도 유도 요바 진이지 아니 다딘지 때나 티 당고 유유 다다디 피게지 본바 유 사마틱 유시 이래래 다디네 요한도 침비 지한테 내가 찍래야 요 니지 본바 차선 세다
No.
본바 차선 사마틱 사마틱소 세다
No.
단지 유유티 가리 되나 본바 차선 세다
No.
다 디네게 탄이 줘야 그 당부 유야 되네 차야게 가르치기라 주제 림반도 망망보지 요한도 좀 정을 해 대다디 돈 담배 온게 요아 침베레베잖아 말이 이제 내 군도 편입이 온게 요아 침베레스야지 송고이사래
No. So we are somewhat in the middle of page 218, which is, as a matter of like, more explanation on related to that stanza from Nagarjuna's work. So when conventional, well, like so usually when we talk about that I have something and you don't have it, or you have something that I don't have it, the examples given here is about like a pot or a vase. Pumba, we are very fond of vase, So I have vase, you don't have a vase. Ha ha ha. Or the other one here is translated as we really don't know what that exactly in Tibetan called a bamboo mat exists, right? So I have a pot or a vase and you don't have it. So whatever that I have, you don't have, or you have that I don't have. So when we talk about those things, all these things only make sense in a conventional way, right? Something that exists conventionally, not in ultimate sense, because in ultimately nothing exists and we can't talk about that. And so what happens, say maybe you have a vase, beautiful vase, well, you dropped it, so you broke it. Now what do you have to say? You can't say I have a vase because you don't have vase, you broke it, right? Okay, so I have something now you don't have. Okay. And so what that tells us that due to the collection of causes and conditions, something come into existence, you can own it, you have it, I don't have it. And then due to causes and conditions, something dismantles and something disintegrates, and now you don't have it either, And all these things, I have, I don't have it, it's all in a conventional sense. Because ultimately, we can't talk about like that. Ultimately, nothing exists, So that's what's talked about there. No.
사마틱 그러다
No.
본바 유 들베 본바 유도 진이지 본바 차도 아마 사마틱도 시 대다 메다 방향 줘도 딱간지 돼야지 딘데 가서 저 요아치니 메다 줘버리 돈도 영야 돼야 돈 담벌 줘버이나 아니 그게 제 메다비 요한돈이 파트기 남샤 돼야 되게 말이야 중국에서래 산에 아니 드링다가 샤 아니 간서 두바야
So what?
중나 쌤에 때부터 중나야 야제 나도 날라죠 토바자다 시라 미디디네야 야제 주두시쇼래
So in that example, that when we talk among ourselves that I have something you don't have, you have something that I don't have. Now we don't have it because we both lost it or broke it or whatever it is. Have, don't have not. All of this only exists conventionally, and that what also tells us is these things are governed by the law of impermanence, isn't it? Something comes into existence due to causes and conditions. Something, goes out of existence due to causes and conditions. So the law of impermanence is very much in action here. Okay? So if these things were to exist ultimately, then they should not break. They should not get burned. You cannot lose it. You cannot have it and lose it because it must exist forever and forever and forever. But that's just impossible. So what that tells us is nothing exists ultimately. So with that, Khensur Rinpoche says, he tried his best to explain. Maybe he added some new things. Maybe he did not add anything to that, whatever. But now he's ready to yield the floor to you so that we could have some discussion. Maybe, we might add more meanings to that. And there's the traveling mic in Geshe Sether's hand. Yeah. Sure.
Okay, what was the purpose of the critic? What weakness in the Madhyamika point of view were they attacking by saying that?
Ultimately, okay, yeah. Kuna kandi shoye de diresha ta dagi di laurwa jandam ki kyabar ja maja said in rangyu be ki khujo rob jre shin yomar sa jo rwa ta sui lab gi na da di lab ne di rwa khati sui lab ko lab khoye de kare cha de yore sa rwa di kyen rob karu thon rwa ta di rangyu be ki dinde chi go yore thenju ba da shamba gi di chi me sa jo rwa di gi da ka so re ko lab khoye ne de rob kare cha go su go da na
ta de ina ta chita chebi na ga je chebra thuk ti che gi war ba yinda ya ta tenju we sa rangju ben de tenge ge ne thong thambar sa temperature ba yang thabar si ya ti quran de rangju bi ge ne bi ge du gi yo ma re chetan thong thambar cha na ma che yin di ba la ti rangju be lok ra min de be rangju be lok ra de re ma to chi la pe tenju wa tun ka cha thuk ti ji wa re to cha na thuk ga ngo cha ko ya cha gi ya re thong thambar cha sa ti ko rangju bi chi ma to chi la we do some tireji temper inside it and then here meta
no so I think what it really comes to this is just I'm my kind of right now what I'm thinking. Okay, I'm not 100% sure, but that's what I think it is at the moment. The why some critics think that the use of the qualifying term ultimate is kind of pejoratives or the exclusive domain of the Savatandika Madhyamikans, not other Madhyamikans, is because in the Prasangika Madhyamikans, they use like 6 different terms, qualifying terms, which all mean the same thing. Okay? Whereas in the Savatandika Madhyamikans, they do not accept something that exists ultimately. They accept that Rangyubegi because Rangwen Druba Dugorwa.
Or Rango the Rankin, Rangtini to back on the Dewey or but they tell you they took out Dewey or Marava.
Here is the catch. The seventh and the Madhyamikans assert something exists intrinsically from its own side, under its own characteristics, but they said there is no ultimate existence. So therefore, maybe some critics think that, well, it is the seventh and the Madhyamikans, who have some issue with the term ultimate, not the Prasangikas or others. Maybe that's how they might have, posited that. Okay, any other? The mic is there. Yeah. Okay. At the door? Okay, they are listening on the glass wall, so you need to, use the micro. We have people behind the glass wall. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So your question is, I didn't get your question, sorry. Yes. 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 Okay. Okay. Thank you. I got it now. Okay. Ta Quran condition is a moran kono te ne kon da sarwa. Ta de di sumrwa. Tendam temba second is Rovada Tendam said the Papa Yamja Yishel Sharwa.
Really?
Ding all the temba the Carson, Tony Dimashi Yomar Sarwa.
Oh, really?
Then a Sudan, Chada Tida, didn't get Yomar Sarwa.
Really?
So the Morangi that Tony is saying the Kaya Megan Sarwa, Chia makes Kuka Sarwa. Did they invite an Dina Yishid of the top the Yomar Sarwa? Kotoba is top the Yomar West.
Oh.
Yamsa Yishin Ali, a top of the Yomar Ben. Kaya made in a Kara Kara, in the Kaya made again. Now.
Really? 이게 동상 남바지리 소라트로리 제게 남바티요 말에 동상 남바지리 얘네야 대 유지 진계기 유전코라 유전지 유들디 동상대 유지 진계기 유전지 유들이 대 동상 딜레 현백기 비게 저기 동이 딜레 현백기 단지 권지 휴바니 소라트로리 잡기 비게 유지 지리요 말이스
when transcendental beings, the Aryas, they go into that deep meditation, right? And their wisdom is single-pointedly focused on nothing but emptiness, shunyata. What we're saying is that for that wisdom, no conventional phenomena appear. No sound, no form, no smell, no this and that, okay? So what really, still something exists there. It's not like emptiness in the sense of nothing exists at all, because their wisdom is non-dualistically engaged with the emptiness. So their wisdom exists, and they are experiencing or seeing emptiness as it is. Yeah? So emptiness exists in that meditation. Their wisdom realizing emptiness exists non-dualistically, but no conventional phenomena exists. So that's the point we are trying to make. Okay. Thank you. Let me hear, yeah.
The ultimate, basically, the object of negation is intrinsic existence, right? It was established. Now, I absolutely don't see the point of adding the qualification. Ultimately, it would to the object of negation, because it would be sounding like this. Ultimately, intrinsic existence does not exist. But intrinsic existence doesn't exist even conventionally. When you say that ultimately it doesn't exist, that implies that it is conventional.
I got it, yeah, thank you.
So,
let me try that first, okay, then we will. Alakurang this year, the Karishore, Gazalia, Dundam, we kept Jamas as Sajorwa.
No.
The Koran Kodan, no mena, when a Gaza this, Rango in the Drubalia, Gaza Sibina, Rango in the Drubal, Gaza Munzi Chevina. And turned down the Yoma, said the Rango in the Druba, they turned down the Yoma, and Kunzo the Yoma, and Komegi turned down the Yoma, Kunzo of the Meganjali young, still loved the Kogumi to Sarova. When a Gaza di. Rangun the Druba, the Gaza Muzimina. Tandelia Gaza Keba Jamas or Tundam Keba. That Dundam the Yoma said the Rangun the Druba, the Tundam the Yoma, Dundam many Yachi Yokum of Sagrova, because of one name, could you make a Sagudusa? No.
Titakuda. Nata. Say, that Gaza Kange, Rangun to buy me, the Tante Mungo Muguduva. But not Tom Tambra to Matu. Tik la you do bala, Kajane, Henda, Tiketi, Matuba, Yimpa, that 10 you get charged to this year. Kajage, Yati, Tontamber Matuna, around 10 to around to Rashi to you think it is. The gig Lobo Kaja, you did it. Can you have done a ton tamberting the Kawajavi and Matu Tiamuba, Kajecho, check the Sony. Matuba tinti took your days. We took the that in the Tapja 10 pub took your days. That he made
the Khensur edition in the Rangible Chashavina, Rangon the Ruba Yorwa. In a that the master did that what Kujisagor. That 10 you were the Kujusagor.
Or really, Kajani.
Here's the thing. That's a really good question. Khensur says, yeah, it's really one tough one. But let's try if we can throw some light on that. From Prasangika Madhyamika's point of view, when they refute that nothing exists ultimately, okay, that's like one big statement said, then nothing can exist intrinsically from its own side, whatever, right? All the terms means the same thing, okay? But for Savatandika Madhyamikans, it doesn't work that way, because Savatandika Madhyamikans say intrinsic existence is not object of negation for us, because we assert that things exist intrinsically from its own side. So for us, conventionally, things exist intrinsically, but they don't exist ultimately. So that's why it makes sense for the Savatandika Madhyamikans, because they're trying to differentiate between ultimate existence and intrinsic existence. Do you see that point? Yeah.
Actually, my question, forgetting, we don't know anything about Svatantrika. It's not. It has nothing to do with them. It's just the Prasangika argument on itself is contradictory. Again, I'm going to
say it again. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Basically, when you add the qualification ultimately to the object of negation,
right?
That would be sounding like ultimately intrinsic existence does not exist. When you say that ultimately intrinsic existence does not exist, when you say that, the fact that you're adding ultimately implies that conventionally it exists. But according to Prasangika, it doesn't exist even conventionally.
Right,
so it's contradictory.
Right.
Forget about Svatantrika.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do
Quran
with
this go da kar so gore the rangju be ke jak she mo che ro bena oma thenju ba ki ben de che be ina tendam da do ma rangon do ma sangma chi go ro da se de gala ani gakchal tendam ki kebar ja se de la bi de gala oma ka sa da thenju be lu da se de gala gakchal tendam ki kebar ja in de gala and tendam do and gakcha de yo mars la bena tendam do rangon de do ba de yo mars la de gala kunso de yo de ngar ko yung do sa de kuji meng sa do kolang ka sa nange sha de so so labdang je ro ba tendam do rangon de do ba de yo mars ka gakcha de rangon de do ba de munji che de ro ba tendam do rangon de do ba de yo mars la de ani yang kunso de yo de ngar ro ba ko nange cha yung cha do sa
요새 때가 레디 난게 게 말이 되지. 단나 돈 담바를 맞죠 봐. 매대지 안 지den게 타니 그 온게 단지 여기 돈송 다들은 되지 봐. 가리네 즉 돈송아. 어디 되게 돈 담바를 랑기 티니 좀 맞죠 나양 티 맞죠에 땡네 지den게 타니 그 온게 사야 탐지 태기리 해야지. 요들다
알디게 가서 치기데 고아되네 지 요거
네 돈 담버 맞습 나야 티 맞습데 매브레베잖아 때미레베잖아 말이 티 맞습 나야 지데 그 타니 그 온게 사지 태버지 야초고 요리 쓰게다
Khensur says maybe you see because in the person you're right if you say exactly what you think it is like a person because if they think that ultimately the object negation doesn't exist they sounds like ultimately nothing exists intrinsically so maybe conventionally it exists that's not the meaning I think the person the term I don't know whether that sense gives in the English the Tibetan term when person say that nothing exists ultimately what it implicitly conveys is they exist conventionally depending upon causes and conditions, things like that. That sense is there, So I don't know how, So he doesn't think there is a self-contradictory thing.
But again, the chapter here reads, adding qualification ultimate to the object of negation.
Right.
And none of these examples are, for example, when in the first quote there, ending with ultimately, however, there is no attainment and no clear knowledge.
Right.
Attainment, so ultimately is not applied to the object of negation, it's applied to attainment and clear knowledge. And these are not the object of negation. So you cannot, you see what I'm saying? You cannot apply the term ultimate to the object of negation. You can apply it to the conventional object, but not to the object of negation.
Okay, I understood your point, yeah.
So
maybe 이게 도요콩 장으로 봐.
라리
도요콩 장인데 갈이야. 아니 전담도 아니 가 토바야 요 말에 가사다디 가사디. 롱어버도 봐요 말슬라버로 와.
라리
시디오 갈 전담디 아니 각자를 잡아 소리면 되서 봐. 전담도 아니 이게 토바데 요 말에 아니 롱어버도 봐요 말라마도 지기 전담 가서 각자를 잡아 소리 디 돈다도 그 용문도 사로 와.
가탈 자민두스
베나 토바 요 말사저로 봐. 토바디 각자 말아봐서 올다고 봐. 베나 롱어버도 봐도 각자 말아봐서 올다. 세상 전담도 토바야 요 말에 아니 롱어버도 요 말서 각자를 잡아기 고아되면도 와서 그 자사디 카가를 샤스.
자사디 가잘랑 자고리. 디마잖아 디니마 가잘 자버디 샴샴도 왔대 여러 봐. 근데 그 돈 담바 요 말이야. 샴로마 자고리 자고리 가지겠다. 아니 딘데 매비나 지금 매나 돈담도 매나 매비 남벌 집에 하나 아니 지 지대나라 지 코아빵이 안 되고 돈den이 강사딘데 요 말이베. 아니 제 돈den이야기 이니피게 코아빵지 람나 속바 온도 람비를 받던데 요 말이베. 신 저알리 근데 요아디 대 요아리디 얘네 돈 담벌게 이니피게 딘데지 요 말참데 마송도 어디 요리 딘데 망고 요다.
Khensur Rinpoche thinks that where that statement says ultimately there is no attainment and no clear knowledge, in that assumptions of these other people, because they think that conventionally people know there is such thing as attainment, there is such thing as path leading to the attainment. So in that very statement, there is no attainment. They're trying to distinguish that ultimately there is no such thing. So he thinks that still that the term ultimate is applied to that assumed intrinsic existence or the object of negation. Yeah. Okay, we will stop there. We have to pray for Tashi's mother, our beloved Geshe Tsulim Gyaltsen's sister, who passed away yesterday in Tibet. And so we have been requested to pray for Tashi Amala Shaba.
Where is it?
Just now. Shadong Golo Yebe, Yabodon, Jendo, Kiaba Sambe, Sanje Don, Kala Gandhi, Dela, Dedemba, Zomba, Chende Sela, Chaze, Omani Beme, 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 Omani Beme
Omane beme gewa di nyodo da chere sewan drokyo ne drowa cheja malu teye salam gubara shu kange lojo jenye jenda nyenda namda rasebe chenye dongo chishe seche nyeje toga leba Kanda sebe sunra mare mendong dongne yisebe rozo kunla puje ta yanla zhuzhu yangden zon zhoda chezho nyamo nye leye zhazho zheze je mare mense dongne nyogo chenye chenze yone daje saje ta Yandang lunzo jase tuwe gu juda juda juni Dalo moze jambe yangla De omara maza na di 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 Omarambazana di zende cheje kera veze je dalu demo memba kada tenju shunglo toba ye lojo bade nawa tendo zo denba nyame tenjo se zanje lojo tome benjo juze dibam gara yabje zonga ba dende gele zove bed Shanzhou Ningbo Shebe Shunglam Je Namda Shudim Sumje Led Namjang Shoje Nyamdo Chebe Pande Lame Shamla Sowa Shudu Chebe Kera Ledam De Nyamda Rugun Robe Semje Sanwa Rimye Nenjo La Jebe Losan Yanden Bebe Bedo Nyingma ma ye rangda che de be yugu mi su dong wang di wang la ye de yang de sun la me yu jo. He who has the intuitive wisdom that disperses the clouds of true obscuration, like the sun shedding a glorious light that is utterly pure. He who understands all meanings whatsoever, of perfect realization,
from whose heart emerges the lotus holding the books of the perfection of wisdom. Those who live in samsara are the prisoners of ignorance, afflicted by the darkness of suffering, looking after all sentient beings with compassion. Like a mother looking after an only child, you have a melodious voice of 60 tones. Roaring like a dragon, you wake people from the sleep of conflicting emotion, freeing one from the iron shackles of karma, dispelling the darkness of their ignorance. Thus you wield the sword which cuts down the shoots of suffering. Primordially pure, having reached the 10th bodhisattva level, the perfect body of highest quality, the foremost son of the Buddha, adorned with 112 ornaments, major and minor physical perfections of a Buddha, I bow down to you, Manjushri. Please dispel the darkness of my mind. Om Arabhaja Di. I beseech you with the loving kindness of your omniscient light rays to completely dispel the dark ignorance of my mind, thus giving me the intellectual courage and the intelligence to understand the teachings of the Buddha, their illustrating treatises and commentaries. O peerless Savior and Supreme Teacher Shuddhodana's son, O the 17 masters and adepts, Nagarjuna and Asanga and so on, O Dibamkar as well as Sovereign Father Tsongkhapa, gloriously appeared here today to grant auspiciousness. On the great path leading to the heart of enlightenment, you have traversed by means of the perfect threefold discipline and have enhanced ever high the realizations of the enlightened qualities. O glorious Guru, we offer our supplications at your feet. Pray return gloriously to propagate the teaching of love song by tying well the sash of monastic disciplinary precepts and generating the altruistic intention to free all beings engaged in the tantric yogas of the 2 stages. Think of the unbearable pain of the sentient being who are enveloped in the forces of 5 degeneration, and to open wide the lotus grove for the Buddha's teaching. May your reincarnation appear soon as a source of merit for us.
Nam mô Vô Song Cứu Độ Chí Tôn Bổn Sư Tịnh Phạn Thái Tử. Nam mô 17 Tăng Tổ Chư Hiền Thánh Tăng Long Thọ Vô Trước. Nam mô Đi Tha Ca Ra Cùng Tông Cấp Ha Tôn Vương Tử Phụ. Hoan Lâm Đương Chốn hiện tại hiện tiền ban truyền phước nhũ. Thênh thang đạo lộ trực chỉ chân tâm kiến tánh đẳng giác. Ngài đã siêu vượt do nghiêm túc giữ 3 tạng giới luật, rồi lại phát huy bay bổng tuyệt vời bồ đề hành chứng. Tôn sư quang vinh tứ chúng thỉnh cầu có sen lễ lạy, xin mau trở lại quang vi truyền bá giáo pháp lô san, văn xưng thắt chặt hai giới nghiêm minh thiền môn tự viện, rồi lại khởi tâm từ bi đại nguyện giải thoát chúng sanh. Tinh chuyên hành trì du già mật hạnh nhị phần chứng đắc, xin luôn thương tưởng thống khổ bất kham ba cõi hữu thịnh, thương bị bao phủ trao đảo khôn nguôi mãnh lực ngũ trượng, đưa tay rộng mở bát ngát vườn sen giáo lý Phật Đà, xin mau tái sanh nhanh chóng hiện hành phước nguồn dưới chúng.
Nhất tâm đảnh lễ Đức Văn Thù Sư Lợi bậc đại trí, ngài điều phục hai chướng ngại, tựa nhật quang lan tỏa khắp 10 phương, bậc nhật chứng chân nghĩa màu rốt ráo, tượng trưng ngài bát nhã tinh thủ hộ nhiệm màu, cõi luân hồi chúng sinh thọ nghiệp báo bị ngăn che bởi phiền não vô minh, sở hữu 60 pháp âm thù thắng, cùng đại bi ngày hóa độ chúng sanh, tựa từ mẫu chăm lo cho quý tử, chính đồng vai ngài thích tình thiên tình, thoát khỏi vòng luân hồi nghiệp chướng, luôn trí tuệ ngày tận đức vô minh, tận diệt muôn vàn khổ đau cùng ách nạn, trường tử như lai tối thắng toàn giác, ngài an trụ nơi thập địa pháp vân, có bên ngài trang nghiêm thanh tịnh, 112 chứng hảo như lai, đê đầu đảnh lễ Đức Văn Thù Sư Lợi, cứu xin ngài tận diệt ám chứng vô minh, tung ma pa sa na đi, con khẩn cầu nơi gót sen bậc đại trí, ban phước lục diệt phiền não vô minh, được trí sáng phân thâm nhập nghĩa màu, pháp tâm diệu cùng muôn vàn vật giải.
장조 senjo rinpoche maje bana jeju je jeba nyamba meba yang gone gondo pewa jo doni dawa rinpoche maje bana jeju jeba nyamba meba yang gone gondo pewa jo sa je be je jo je me do zhang ri ra lin je nin de jian ba de sang je xin do mi de wei wa yi zhou ge nan da jian la jue wa zhong gang ri ra wei guo wei xin gang de bian dang de wa ma lu zhong wei ne jian le zi wang Tenzin jiang zuo yi 下辈子的巴多天就也那么个罗让那么别那个你样大呀。